welcome to Work in Progress with Nicole Engelmann. This is the podcast where I have honest chats with other small business owners, founders, and creatives. And today I'm joined again by Selina, who is a coach, author, and the founder of Project U, of the Project U journals, actually. So, Selina, I guess we talk about burnout in this episode because you've written a book all about burnout. So you're definitely an expert. And I guess it comes up a lot in coaching as well, right? That's kind of,
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's one of the main points, apart
Yeah.
from like wanting to change your ways. How long has burnout been a part of your career of like teaching, not teaching, coaching and the journals as well?
Yeah. So I really started to notice probably about 12 years ago that more and more people were coming to me. I've been a career change coach for coming up to 20 years now. But more and more people were coming to me wanting to change career because they were feeling burnt out, whether they knew that that's what it was or not. But at the same time, I was noticing that I was caught in this cycle of what I call mini burnouts. So I was burning out about 3 times a year. And I know because in my journals I was writing down things like, "Oh, I only burnt out 3 times this year." And I was like, "Wow, that is not a life goal there."
Yeah.
And I started to notice around me, a lot more of my friends were having these mini burnouts. Some people were having big burnouts. It was becoming more and more common hearing people talking about burnout or burnout symptoms. But what I was also really worried about was that I was starting to see this sort of resignation of, well, that's just how life is. Life is stressful. Burnout's kind of inevitable. And sometimes even wearing it as a bit of a badge of honor, like we
Mm.
do with busyness, like, oh my God, I burnt out so badly. Like I just overdid it. And it was really at that time was really when hustle culture and girl boss was like really at its height. So I think those two things combined. That said, the stats are showing that burnout has remained consistently high and is not showing any sign of going down. So I was speaking to a publisher and I said, of course, the book that everyone really needs is a book on how to stop burning out all the time. And she went, "Oh, I need that book. My partner needs that book. All my friends need that book." She said, "Why don't you write that book?" I was like, "Because I'm not a burnout expert." She said, "But surely you've been seeing people showing up with burnout over the years." And I said, "Yeah. And actually, I do just want to figure out what to do about this. Like it's getting ridiculous." And I I got a book deal to write about burnout. And so the journey for me wasn't saying, "Hi, I'm a burnout expert. I've been doing this for years." It was as a coach saying, "I'm seeing more and more people burning out." I was burning out until a few years ago on a regular basis, mini burnouts. I also saw my dad burn out when I was 12. He had a massive nervous breakdown. So that's obviously, something that had an influence on me growing up. But also with my dad, what I saw was someone very, very stressed out, very angry a lot of the time through my childhood, had this massive burnout. And then that was the beginning of him really changing his life for the better. So I had also kind of hadn't fully pieced these things together at the time. But as I started writing the book, realizing how I had this narrative in the background of burnout is can be a really scary thing to go through, but it can also sometimes be the very thing that turns your life the right way up. And I have seen this over and over and over again with people, to the point that I will often say, "Look, I know this is so hard what you're going through, but I see that actually you'll look back and realize, hard though it was, it needed to happen." And I always say, burnout is your body and your brain's way of saying, "Enough. What you're doing here, this is not sustainable. Something has to change." Our bodies are so wise. They're constantly communicating to us when we are running low on energy. And ultimately burnout is that. It's a bank, you're energetically bankrupt. You're kind of running so low on energy. You know that whole saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, it's people who keep trying to pour from that empty cup are the ones who will burn out. And those are the ones who burn out. It's more emotional burnouts. The interesting thing about burnout is there are different ways that we can burn out, and burnout can look very different from one person to another, which is why think sometimes when my book first came out, I had friends contacting me and going, "Well, do you think I'm burnt out?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Oh, because now I'm reading the burnout symptoms in your book. Yeah, the penny's dropping. I hadn't realized that's what was." I'm like, "Yeah, that's, I'd definitely say you're probably burnt out."
What would you say are the early signs of burnout then?
Yeah. So again, because it shows up in different ways, you've got, I mean, the classic signs obviously are that bone deep exhaustion. And it's the kind of exhaustion you just don't seem to be able to shake off. We all get exhausted. We all overdo it. We all get run down from time to time. That's normal. It's natural. I'm not suggesting that you should be aiming for perfection and constantly full of vitality at all times. But when that happens, if you have an early night, have a nice bath, get to bed early, the next day you should feel better, or certainly after a couple of days of rest and, restoring and sort of recouping your energy. But when you're burnt out, that just doesn't seem to touch the sides. Like you're still waking up every day tired, exhausted, but also, lacking motivation. You can be feeling really anxious with it. You can be feeling a lot more sensitive, a lot more emotionally sensitive, irritable, resentful. You can feel very alone. You can start to, even people who love the work they do can start to feel sort of very distant from it. And that's why so many people would come to me and say, I think I need to change career. And if you can tell they're just so depleted and so burnt out, I'd be like, let's see. Let's see if it is that. Or actually, if once we get you reclaiming your energy and getting your energy back up and feeling good again, if if the problem really is the career and the work that you're doing. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's people are in a career and a way of working in a job that was never right for them. And that's been part of their burnout. But sometimes and often you'll find that when people recover from burnout, they look at their work and hold a different perspective. There will be changes that need to be made for sure. But often you'll find people rekindling their love for work if they did once love it. So you've got emotional burnout. That's often when people are like real overgivers and they're always there for everyone else, always putting other people's needs before their own, whether at home or whether at work. They will emotionally burn out. So you often see this in people who are in caring industries. So, and, nurses, doctors, therapists, coaches, people who are looking after others can often experience emotional burnout. Parents can often experience emotional burnout. Mental burnout is that sort of more people who just constantly thinking, never switching off, never wanting to or never able to. And that is sort of when it used to happen to me, it would be like a fuse had gone and suddenly I'd get extreme decision fatigue. So even the smallest decision would suddenly bring me to tears. And that's when I would know, oh no, it's happened again. I burnt myself out. That's a mini burnout. So I would have these mini burnouts where I would just suddenly just be completely frazzled. My brain was suddenly really working like as if it's whirring through treacle. Like I say, even the smallest decisions would make me want to burst into tears. But after a few weeks of really resting and recovery, I would feel better again. Bigger burnout can have people signed off, for months in order to recover. So there's a different sliding scale as well as how extreme it gets. And the longer you leave it unchecked, the worse it can get, which is why it's so important, first of all, to understand how to manage your energy, which is what I kind of came to in this journey of going, why, first of all, are so many people burning out? And number two, what can we do about it? And so going on that journey, talking to hundreds of people who had burnt out, talking to experts, and in order to write the book. And I wanted it to be a book that was a practical guide that people could pick up when they were feeling burnt out. So in the first few pages, it says, if you are feeling really burnt out right now, close up this book, do these 3 things, and then come back to it when you're feeling more like yourself. Because the last thing your poor, overwhelmed, frazzled brain needs right now is to be trying to take on more information, even on a book about burnout. And there's some brilliant books out there on burnout. But what I found was like, if I were really burnt out, my brain would not be able to digest this. Like
Hmm.
even this is too much. It needs to be, when you're really burnt out, you need to be told, get into bed, like cancel your plans, treat yourself as if you had the flu, because you need to be still. You need to recover your energy, to build yourself back up, and you need to go really gently and yeah, just start being tender with yourself. So there's emotional burnout, there's that more mental burnout. The underlying thing, I think, with all of them is that feeling that you just can't cope anymore. And that's where it starts to feel really scary. And burnout does feel really scary. When whatever kind of burnout you have, you start to feel not like yourself, and to feel like you can't cope anymore. And that's just a sign that your energy bank is so low.
Hmm.
And but the good thing is, and sometimes, like I say, people do need to take time off work to fully recover. But the recovery from burnout, and the things we need to do to protect ourselves from burnout are simple. It doesn't require completely rehauling your life. It's just understanding how we work as energetic human beings, that we are not machines, and we
Hmm.
keep treating ourselves as if we were machines and expecting ourselves to be able to operate like machines. And the more we do that, the more likely we are to burn out. So it is about learning how how to keep our energy levels topped up, which is what my journal, which I self-published this year, because I'm now all about the self-publishing. Burnt Out was published. And I would say published, self-published, there are pros and cons to both, but my heart's with the self-publishing. Yeah, so Time to Thrive is all about learning how to manage your energy. And this is what I stumbled across the work of Tony Schwartz and Jim Lower when I was researching the book. And they talk about, don't stop managing your time, manage your energy. And it was this big light bulb moment where I was like, this is the answer. This is what people need when they're burnt out, but this is what people need to protect themselves from burnout. And this is what people need to learn how to thrive. And what Tony Schwartz and Jim Lowe are saying is, this is what people need to do if they want to thrive, like really perform at their best and be their most productive. And the beauty of that is that ambitious, driven side of us that doesn't care whether you're burnt out or not will listen to something that says, well, this is going to make you more productive. It's like, oh, okay. So managing my energy will make me more productive. Great. I'll learn that. But learning how to manage your energy also happens to be the thing that will help you to thrive, that help you to recover from burnout, and that will protect you from burning out again. Like, I know I will never burn out. I may have difficult times in life. I'm not saying that, I couldn't fall apart if awful things happened. But in terms of burnout from overworking, there's just no way. I just cannot imagine there'd be a way where I'd get back to that
Hmm.
way of operating. I just have such a different framework now. And I've discovered how simple it is actually to keep our energy topped up. And I have a very full life. I have a lot going on. It doesn't take huge amounts, thank God, of time or effort to keep my energy topped up, because if it did, I wouldn't be able to do it.
I think what people also underestimate is that it can lead to actual physically health problems. Like
Yeah.
I definitely, my dad had a stroke at 51, and that's definitely partly due to burnout and then treating symptoms with medication that he
Yeah.
shouldn't, right? So like using too much like aspirin, ibuprofen, that then, instead of actually tackling the problem. So
Yeah.
it's not just that, oh, I'm tired and I feel a bit overwhelmed, and if I rest now, this is fine. But literally, if you continue doing this can lead to serious, long-lasting health problems as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, with stress, and ultimately burnout comes about from workplace, the way the World Health Organization describes it. And I'm not going to say it word for word, but it's about long term, stress that hasn't been successfully managed and has gone on for such a long time that it's turned into sort of chronic stress and burnout. So, and those things absolutely can lead to even more serious health problems. And it's a huge, like when we were coming out of the pandemic, when the book came out, the statistics were saying that 80% of people in the workplace, and this was in all sorts of different countries, the US, the UK, but all sorts of different countries around the world, was roughly around 70 or 80% of people had experienced symptoms of burnout in the past 12 months. And the thinking was, well, it's the pandemic, it's been so stressful, but those statistics have not gone down. Like,
Mm.
we're still there, every year there are new statistics. Yep, still around 70 or 80%. That shows what a huge problem we have with the way that we're working,
Mm.
and our acceptance of stress, our misunderstanding of stress. I mean, I could do a whole separate podcast episode on that, but
Mm.
we don't understand stress. We're terrified of stress. We try to ignore stress while also just accepting that that's an unavoidable part of life. And actually, my whole thing around stress is you have to become friends with stress and understand how you respond to stress and not see it as the enemy. Um, but I just think that we found ourselves in this brave new world, the digital world, and without the understanding of what we need as human beings to thrive in that fast-paced digital world. And so that's what Burnout was there to help people with. And that's very much what Time to Thrive is about, which is giving people a toolkit for more energy, less stress, and a life that feels good. It also happens to make you more productive, but I don't like to push that one because I don't
Yeah.
want to be a productivity coach or, productivity hacks. I'm here to help people to thrive and to feel good.
Mm. What are some practical tips to prevent burnout? You said time management, but what are some examples of how you can prevent it?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say time management. I think sometimes that
Or
can
energy
cause even
management,
more.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, but but people often do think they need more time management,
Mm.
actually. This is the whole thing. People think, oh, if just we're more organized and time management tools, and we're often given time management tools at work, try this and thinking that will help. And that isn't the problem. It's understanding how to manage our energy. But you know what? The beauty of it is that usually it's a few simple things. The most common things that help people recover from burnout and protect themselves from burnout are exercise and movement. I don't mean that you suddenly have to be going to the gym every day. I went into a gym for the first time the other day and did a spin class, but I have not been in a gym for many, many decades, and I don't plan to start going back to them. Movement can be dancing around your kitchen. It can be going for walks. It can be whatever that may be, but movement and exercise, really, really key. If you're using alcohol to unwind at the end of the day, that can often be an important ingredient to change, an important habit to change, because that can get you in a vicious cycle of not getting enough sleep. Sleep is so key. So, so key. Getting a good quality night of sleep. Not panicking if you don't, but certainly doing everything you can to create the conditions to help you get a good night's sleep. Um, and also that the importance of rest. I know it sounds so obvious, but I find this time of year, because I've got the journal to sell, I've got the Goodbye Hello journal, heading towards Christmas and the end of the year. So that's a super busy time, loads of other stuff going on. I've got a 10-year-old kid, so all stuff with that, Christmas presents and blah, blah, blah. I find it harder than ever to actually I won't find time to rest and to do things that fill up my cup unless I make the space for that. And I mean, schedule it into my calendar. My aim each week is to have one night where I have a bath and I get into bed early. And if I know I can do that at least one night every week, that rhythm, knowing I have that in the calendar, makes a huge difference. Otherwise, if I can't see times where I've got space to just rest and relax and do nothing, my nervous system starts to panic, because I know I'm going to start going down, down, down in terms of my energy levels. So, but the biggest ones are definitely, and it's kind of boring because it sounds so obvious, but it's also good because it's simple stuff that we can all do. Getting out in nature is another really important
Mm.
one, and actually the other one is switching off. Switching off is such an interesting one. Even the term is kind of misleading. We're not switching off, we're switching gears, actually. But particularly when you run your own business, we can be thinking about it 24/7. We can be afraid to not think about it 24/7.
Mm.
And we have to have time in the evenings, on time off, whether that's weekends or whenever that is, to really do things that help us to switch off from work. So for a lot of people who have very active brains, that doesn't mean just like sitting there. And it certainly doesn't mean actually zoning out watching TV or having that beer or that glass of wine to just sort of wind down, which that can sometimes be the reason, or often can be the reason why people do that, because it feels like we're switching off. But it's not good quality switching off. So it needs to be things that engage your brain fully, and often it's those wax on, wax off kind of activities. So it could be cooking, it could be going up to meet with a friend, but it could be doing things that are creative, making things with your hands, playing card games, doing a puzzle, doing Sudoku. It's finding the tools that help you to switch off. Exercise, that's another one. If you tend to get very stressed, stress builds up through the day with your work, then doing some form of movement or exercise that helps to release that energy at the end of the day, so your nervous system can decompress, and calm down. But what I teach in Time to Thrive is physical, emotional, mental, motivational, and spiritual energy zones, and the very practical, very simple and practical things we can do to keep those energy zones topped up, and what it looks like and what it feels like when those energy zones are topped up, and what it looks and feels like when they're not. And just learning that framework can be what makes all the difference of recognizing, just learning again what we need as human beings, which I think we've lost touch with. But also I think we need to learn new ways in this digital, always switched on world. What we did in the past before we had phones and TVs and laptops, um, you know, some of those things will work now, but we have to have other tools in place that help us now with all of that noise going on.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find that the what we've just talked about, is it the same for prevention as well as when you actually have the burnout?
Yeah, I mean, when you're really burnt out, it is about going, okay, I need to fill up those 5 energy zones. So, I'll say to people, I was doing a workshop the other day with a company, and um, some of the guys there were saying, well, what should I start with? What's the first thing I can do? I'm definitely burnt out. I was like, do you do any exercise or much movement during the day? And they're like, no. And I was like, you got to start there. You got to move your body, get the energy out. Like I said, it doesn't have to be doing a hit workout. Movement can look like all sorts of different things, but get your body moving. But it can be gentle movement. If you're super burnt out, the last thing you need to be doing is like a hit workout or sort of running a 5K, because that might actually tip you, sort of not actually do you any good, doing sort of putting your body through more stress of really pushing it. So it can be gentle movement. Um, Doing things to pamper yourself, doing things that fill up your cup, doing things that connect you with simple pleasures, things that bring you joy, things that make you laugh. So definitely going slow. And if you're still working full on and you recognize you need that time because you're burnt out to recover, then it's just making sure you ring fence an evening here, a weekend there, where you do really with intention design your day so that it is filling you up with energy on all 5 energy zones. And some of the best things are getting out in nature, movement out in nature that ticks pretty much all 5 energy zones. And we know the things that make us smile, the things that make us
Mm.
feel good. We do know what those things are. The simple pleasures in life are the things that fill up our energy zones. And so starting with those, and then it's about learning what really helps to keep your energy topped up. And my aim with people is to help them become masters at managing their energy, because the more you master it, the better you're going to feel, the more you're going to thrive in life, and the more you're going to be able to. And when you're thriving, your business is thriving. Or rather, when you're not thriving, it's going to impact on your business.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I can definitely confirm the simple pleasures and going out in nature. So the last week I've actually been partly at my friend's in Staffordshire. So she has two dogs. So cuddling, the
Yeah.
dogs and just like
Yeah.
getting out of busy London life. But also over the weekend, I've actually been to a business retreat, but we did a lot of crafts. So we've made our
Yeah.
own candle holders. We painted candles. I've got my coloring book with me. It was in the countryside, so we went for a walk and just like sitting on a bench outside in the morning with blue sky, no London noise or smells, and just like
Yeah.
with a cup of tea or something can do you the world of good.
Absolutely. And it's exactly that. It's using the time you do have available, making sure you create that time for filling up your cup and recharging your batteries and learning what those things are. But it's not going to come as a surprise to you what those things are. We know getting out in nature, going to places we find beautiful, laughing with friends, playing games, being creative, making things, we know that those things feel good. And ultimately, those are the things that will help us to recover from burnout and to protect ourselves from burnout and to keep our energy topped up. That said, if you have severe burnout and you're really actually afraid of you're really scared of your thoughts and where your head's going to, then it's definitely important to seek out professional help because there's only so far simple pleasures can take you. If it's got really bad and it's really impacting on your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, then absolutely getting professional help, whether that's going to a GP or whether that's going to someone, acupuncture, someone who can help you with, you're regulating your nervous system. It's often very much comes hand in hand with a nervous system, which is absolutely just frazzled and spent. And there are all sorts of different kinds of professionals that will help you to bring it back up and help it to recover. But yeah, seek out professional help. Um, if it's feeling really scary, for sure.
Hmm. That's a great way to end this. And thank you for all your knowledge and wisdom. There's only one thing left to ask, I guess. And I mean, we touched on it throughout both episodes, actually. You showed your journals, but obviously the podcast is called Work in Progress. So what do you have currently in work in progress? I mean, the journals obviously is one thing,
Yeah.
and we talk about that as well. But is there anything else that you're planning maybe for 2026 as well?
Yes, Nicole, I do. And I can't wait for the photo shoots that we'll have in order to promote it. So I am with my community, with my membership. We're literally at the time of recording this tomorrow night going to be having a session where we're going to be exploring all these different options of, what I can create next to help people with tools that help them to design the lives that they want to be living. So obviously we have the Goodbye Hello Journal and Time to Thrive. And as part of the membership, we do a monthly reflect and plan session, which everyone really loves. And what we're looking at now is, okay, but how do we so in the Goodbye Hello Journal, we do quarterly commitments. And obviously in the monthly reflect and plan session, you go away being like, right, this is what I want to focus on this month. But what tools can I create next to really help people design their lives? I find traditional planners do not work for me. I don't know what it is. I find them too boring. I find them too structured. I find them too work focused. But I feel that I need to have some sort of planning tools, whether it's a desk planner, whether it's, yeah. So I'm figuring out my work in progress is the next generation of Project You planners and guided journals to help people design their lives. And it's fun because I'm doing it in collaboration or doing it certainly with the input from my community. And I love collaborating. I love co-creating things. So yeah, watch this space for planners and journals and tools in 2026 to help you design your day, your week, your life. Watch this space.
I love this and I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So thank you so much again for, joining me and having this conversation and sharing all your wisdom and knowledge that you accumulated during writing the book as well. And I hope it's really helpful for anyone who's listening. Because like you said, it's not always a big burnout. Sometimes it's the small ones and we just keep going and we don't know how to get out of it. So I think it's really helpful to have all those kind of knowledge and wisdom nuggets that you just shared.
Oh, well,
Um,
thank you for having me.
no worries, always a pleasure. And I think leave everyone with that. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, you can get in touch with Selina. It's all in the show notes. I share the links to the journals and even to the Burnout book as well, because that is probably very helpful. And leave a comment on the podcast wherever you listen to it. Would love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, Selina. Bye,
Bye,
everyone else.
Nicole.